Hello, I'm Emma, and I'm here to discuss Are We Losing Our Moral Compass? The Abolition of Man is a 1943 book by Celsius. South, Lewis, subtitled Reflections on Education with special reference to the teaching of English in the upper forms of schools. It uses a contemporary text about poetry as a starting point for a defense of objective value and natural law. Lewis goes on to warn readers about the consequences of doing away with ideas of objective value. It defends man's power over nature as something worth pursuing, but criticizes the use of it to debunk values, the value of science itself being among them. The title of the book, then, is taken to mean that moral relativism threatens the idea of humanity itself. The book was first delivered as a series of 3 evening lectures at King's College, Newcastle, part of the University of Durham, as the Riddell Memorial Lectures on 24-26 February 1943. The rapid decline in societal trust raises a crucial question. Now, let's explore moral subjectivism versus natural law. Lewis begins with a critical response to the Green Book by Gaius and Titius, The Control of Language, a critical approach to reading and writing, published in 1939 by Alexander, Alec, King and Martin Ketley. The Green Book was used as a text for upper form students in British schools. Lewis criticizes the authors for subverting student values and claims that they teach that all statements of value, such as "this waterfall is sublime," are merely statements about the speaker's feelings and say nothing about the object. Such a view, Lewis argues, makes nonsense of value talk. It implies, for example, that a speaker who condemns some act as contemptible is really only saying, "I have contemptible feelings," by denying that values are real or that sentiments can be reasonable. Subjectivism saps moral motivation and robs people of the ability to respond emotionally to experiences of real goodness and real beauty in literature and in the world. Moreover, Lewis claims that being a consistent moral subjectivist is impossible. Even the authors of the Green Book clearly believe that some things, such as improved student learning, are truly good and desirable. Lewis cites ancient thinkers such as Plato, Aristotle and St. Augustine, who believed that the purpose of education was to train children in ordinate affections, to train them to like and dislike what they ought, and to love the good and hate the bad. Lewis claims that although such values are universal, they do not develop automatically or inevitably in children. Thus, they are not natural in that sense of the word, but they must be taught through education. Those who lack them lack the specifically human element, the trunk that unites intellectual man with visceral animal, man, and they may be called men without chests. The relentless pursuit of profit and technological advancement is eroding fundamental human values, leading to a disturbing decline in empathy and ethical considerations. Lewis criticizes modern attempts to debunk natural values, such as those that would deny objective value to the waterfall, on rational grounds. He says that there is a set of objective values that have been shared with minor differences by every culture, which he refers to as the traditional moralities of East and West, the Christian, the pagan, and the Jew. Lewis calls that the Tao, from the Taoist word for the ultimate way or path of reality and human conduct. Although Lewis saw natural law as supernatural in origin, as evidenced by his use of it as a proof of theism in mere Christianity, his argument in the book does not rest on theism. Lewis argued that the chest, which he viewed as the seat of emotions and moral instincts, is essential for connecting reason, the head, with appetites, the belly. Without this connection, individuals become detached from their emotions and moral compass, leading to a lack of virtue and enterprise. Without the Tao, no value judgments can be made at all, and modern attempts to do away with some parts of traditional morality, for some, rational reason always proceed by arbitrarily selecting one part of the Tao and using it as grounds to debunk the others. The final chapter describes the ultimate consequences of this debunking, a not-so-distant future in which the values and morals of the majority are controlled by a small group who rule by a perfect understanding of psychology, and who in turn, being able to see through any system of morality that might induce them to act in a certain way, are ruled only by their own unreflected whims. In surrendering rational reflection on their own motivations, the controllers will no longer be recognizably human, the controlled will be robot-like, and the abolition of man will have been completed. An appendix to the Abolition of Man lists a number of basic values seen by Lewis as parts of the Tao, supported by quotations from different cultures. The dystopian ideas in the Abolition of Man are fleshed out in Lewis's science fiction novel, That Hideous Strength, as Lewis himself makes clear in the preface of the story. The video explores a troubling trend of eroding ethical standards across society. While the book was considered a favorite of the author, Lewis believed it was almost totally ignored by the public. By the 21st century, that was no longer true, at least amongst intellectuals, both Christian and non-Christian. Jonah Goldberg has assessed it to be one of the greatest books of its era as it is helping preserve ideas of moral absolutism. Catholic Bishop Robert Barron considers the book almost prophetic on the topic of values, such that today they accepted as being projections of our feelings and subjective whims, and consequently, anyone who dares to speak of properly objective truth or objective moral value is engaging in an oppressive play of power. Carl Trueman has argued that the collection of essays is strongly relevant to today as the turmoil in our contemporary Western world is a function of the collapse of consensus concerning what it means to be human, a time marked by a crisis of anthropology. Commenting on the book's more political elements, Michael Ward argues that Lewis's essay is an early warning that democracies are vulnerable to the dangers of subjectivism. Ward writes, "Democracies can only be preserved if they view ethical systems in an undemocratic light." Expanding upon this, Samuel Gregg speculates that Lewis's indirect critique of democracy may have unsettled readers immediately after its publication, given the political climate of World War II and the immediate threat of authoritarian dictatorships. In time, however, similar observations were shared and developed by both equivalent and later thinkers, such as Wilhelm Röpke, Cardinal Jean-Marie Lustiger, and Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Lewis's concept of the Tao has become understood as a shorthand of natural law. As such, his essay is now regarded as both key to the revival of this idea of natural law and a strong counterpoint to ethics of Karl Barth, where morality depends on special revelation. Some legal minds have come to see Lewis's essay as bolstering the Calvinist understanding of natural law as being transcendent in nature. Ross Douthat has written about the book's ideas many times in the New York Times, listing it as one of the books he would assign to all college students, especially as they critique the threats of modern technology. Philosopher Peter Kreeft shared this view, including it as one of 6 books to read to save Western civilization, alongside Lost in the Cosmos by Walker Percy, Mere Christianity by Celsius South, Lewis, The Everlasting Man by G. Kelvin Chesterton, Orthodoxy by G. Kelvin Chesterton, and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Passages from The Abolition of Man are included in William Bennett's 1993 book, The Book of Virtues. As historian Paul East Michelson points out, though many intellectuals have been prompted by Lewis's work to argue directly against him, this includes B. Fahrenheit, Skinner in his work Beyond Freedom and Dignity. Skinner asserts that in his behaviorist school of psychology, contrary to Lewis, man is being abolished. What is being abolished is autonomous man, the man defended by the literatures of freedom and dignity. The video explores a troubling question: are we losing our moral compass? National Review ranked the book at number 7 in its 100 Best Nonfiction Books of the 20th Century list. The Conservative Intercollegiate Studies Institute ranked the book as the second best book of the 20th century. A 2019 journal article, Science Fiction and the Abolition of Man, argued that many science fiction characters have drawn on the idea of men without chests, including the logical Vulcans of Star Trek to the emotionally stunted replicants in Blade Runner. In 2022, artist Carson Grubor created a comic book adaptation, Abolition of Man, using illustrations generated by artificial intelligence. The text of Lewis' work serves as definitional prompts for the AI's images. Many ideas in Lewis' book have also appeared in music, including Christian hip-hop duo Mars Ill named the track, The Abolition of Man-Child, from their 2002 album Raw Material after the book. In 2003, the post-hardcore band Thrice based the lyrics of the song, The Abolition of Man on the book. It is featured in the band's third album, The Artist in the Ambulance. Tao, the 6th studio album of Canadian rapper Shad, released in 2021, was heavily inspired by the abolition of man. The rapid erosion of ethical standards presents a serious challenge to society's well-being.